John Hook's Newsmaker starts now.
Thanks for joining us for Newsmaker, and I hope you stick around for the program, the second half of the program. We're going to be joined by the Gilbert father who was just released from a Mexican prison. He spent 2 years behind bars for mistakenly bringing a gun across the border into Mexico while on vacation. But first, we have all been bombarded by political ads for the past few months. As all of you know, Arizona is one of 7 battleground states in the country that could very well decide the next election. And the question I wanted answered, which ads are hitting the mark and which ones are not? Jaime Molera is one of the founders of Molera Alvarez, a government public affairs firm. He was also former Arizona school superintendent. Great to see you, Jaime.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Okay, are you ready?
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to look at some ads now, and a lot of them you've seen. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen them too.
Unfortunately.
We're going to start with a Kamala Harris. This was kind of an introductory campaign spot, reintroducing the public to her.
In this election, we each face a question. What kind of country do we want to live in? There are some people who think we should be a country of chaos, of fear, of hate. But us, we choose something different. We choose freedom.
Freedom, freedom, I can't move. Freedom, cut me loose.
Okay, Jaime, impressions. It's a biographical ad. It's a good feeling ad, tied into the joy and all the stuff from the Democratic convention.
Yeah, you know, all these ads, there's a lot of data that goes behind them. They run extensive polls, right? A lot of it is not just to independents or Republicans, but really to their base. You know, what gets people fired up? And after everything that the Democrats went through with President Biden and his lack of being able to show that he was responsive or being able to be a strong campaigner, I think they wanted to have an ad that showed a lot of energy, a lot of youthfulness. You saw a lot of kids. So it just showed more of her vitality as opposed to anything else.
Why a bio ad on a politician that is the #2 in the country and has been for 3.5 years? It's interesting that you've got to reintroduce her to the country. Is it a makeover, or
Yes.
is it we need to tell you who this is because you maybe don't really know?
Well, as #2, vice presidents don't get a lot of attention. It's always focused on the president. So I think what they want to do is reintroduce her, again, as a very energetic, totally opposite from President Biden.
Yeah, that's clear.
And being able to show her hit all of those, if you noticed, all of those subtle issues that the Democrats want to talk about, like reproductive rights. That for them.
Rainbow flag.
Exactly.
All of the little stuff.
All those little things that fire up their base. Because again, what they're trying to do is make sure that in November, their Democrat base is going to come out, and they're going to come out and support their candidate.
Okay, let's take a look at a Trump ad. This is a little different. This is on Harris and the border.
Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
This is America's border czar, and she's failed us. Under Harris, over 10 million illegally here. 250,000 Americans dead from fentanyl. Brutal migrant crimes. And ISIS now here.
Do you have any plans to visit the border? You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. I mean, I don't understand the point that you're making.
Kamala Harris, failed, weak, dangerously liberal.
Well, it's not as uplifting as the former ad. Thoughts?
Well, again, based on their polling, they want to portray her as very progressive. You know, that mold of she hasn't, and the Biden administration, and she being the border czar, hasn't done anything on the border that would be, at least in Arizona, I think very powerful. I mean, that's every poll that I've seen, John, border issues is by far the #1 issue. So when you see hundreds, if not thousands of people pouring across the border, it's very disconcerting.
You
to a
think
lot of
that's bigger
Arizonans.
than economy here?
I do. Every poll
Wow.
I've seen. I mean, the economy is a big issue, and the Republicans are going to be talking about it. Those are the top 2 things that they want to talk about.
Yeah.
Like I said, the Democrats want to talk about women's right to choose. Republicans want to talk about border security and a flagging economy.
Okay, let's take a look at, this was another Harris bio ad. to kind of, again, introduce her. This one was entitled Fearless. Take a look.
The one thing Kamala Harris has always been: fearless. As a prosecutor, she put murderers and abusers behind bars. As California's Attorney General, she went after the big banks and won $20 billion for homeowners. And as vice president, she took on the big drug companies to cap the cost of insulin for seniors. Because Kamala Harris has always known who she represents.
This campaign is about who we fight for.
This is interesting because it is future versus the past, but the past has been Democrats in the White House for 12 out of the last 16 years.
I call this ad an inoculation ad. She's trying to inoculate herself against what's going to be attacks against her, being an attorney general that was considered to be very liberal. I think you've already seen Republican ads attacking her ability to fight crime effectively. They're going to paint everything that's going on in California, particularly areas like San Francisco, for instance, and all the crime and all the people going in and just going into CVS stores and taking off with whatever without paying. That's the picture the Republicans want to do, so they want to inoculate themselves by saying she was an effective attorney general, that she was tough on crime, that she fought for seniors, and she did all those things, again, that the polls say that would be helpful to her to paint a picture that it will be against what the Republicans want to do.
Okay. This ad really has caught my eye. I want you to take a look at this. This is Harris versus Harris.
Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Everyday prices are too high. Food, rent, gas, back to school clothes. That is called Bidenomics. A loaf of bread costs 50% more today. Ground beef is up almost 50%. There's not much left at the end of the month. Bidenomics is working. The price of housing has gone up. It feels so hard to just be able to get ahead. And we are very proud of Bidenomics.
This is not a political statement, but I really think that may be the most effective ad I've seen this cycle, because there's no narrator.
Correct.
There's no menacing voice. It is the person's words used against themselves.
Well, again, as I mentioned, the two issues are going to be border security and the economic condition of the United States. And certainly tying her to Joe Biden, and they're going to be using the term Bidenomics. So I hope the viewers get used to that, because you're going to be hearing that over and over again.
They'll hear it in the debate?
Absolutely, absolutely.
What do you make of that? I mean, that is, again, you have Harris, the ads are much more uplifting.
Correct.
The Trump stuff is a lot more, you should be scared of this person.
Correct. Well, you remember Bill Clinton, his claim to fame when he was running was, it's the economy, stupid.
Yes.
That the bottom line is people are concerned. There is surging inflation. There is trouble being able to afford basic housing. Food prices are going up. So that's where the Trump administration is going to be doubling down on those facts to really undercut what she's saying, that, oh, everything is great.
Do you think that ad hits the mark?
Oh, I do. I think that was an extremely effective ad. And again, because by not making it over the top, really using, as you said, her words against herself and against the Biden administration, that's pretty powerful.
All right, latest Harris ad talks about Project 2025. Take a look.
Donald Trump's back, and he's out for control.
I would have every right to go after them.
Complete control.
I will wield that power very aggressively.
And he has a plan to get it.
Detailed plans for exactly what our movement will do.
It's called Project 2025, a 922-page blueprint to make Donald Trump the most powerful president ever, overhauling the Department of Justice, giving Trump the unchecked power to seek vengeance.
That was the first really negative ad that I saw her camp put out. What do you think?
Well, again, it's about turning out their base. So some of these ads have different targets.
I think we forget that. We assume it's all geared toward the so-called, and it's a small chunk, undecideds.
Exactly. And it's also, you know, some people think, well, it's going to be to get Republican women maybe to not vote for Donald Trump. But some of these are just to get their folks back into their camp. Remember, just maybe 6 short weeks ago, the Democrats are having a huge problem when President Biden was still at the top of the ticket, it was clear that their numbers showed that the lack of enthusiasm to come out was dropping considerably. So she comes on. One of the things they had to do is put it on ads like this to get their base fired up again, to make sure that they get that 95% Democrat base turnout, because every vote counts. In 2000 and the last election cycle, when President Biden won, he won Arizona by 10,000 votes.
Yes.
Out of almost 3.5 million votes. That's very tight.
I know.
So that's why they need to get their base out.
Yeah, got it. Okay, one more. This is the Trump ad borrowing from Ronald Reagan. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?
Please welcome President Ronald Reagan, who has a few questions for you.
All of you will go to the polls, will stand there in the polling place and make a decision. I think when you make that decision, it might be well if you would ask yourself, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Is it easier for you to go and buy things in the stores than it was 4 years ago? Is there more or less unemployment in the country than there was 4 years ago?
Well, now you're channeling Reagan, and boy, is that a contrast to Trump's style to Reagan's style.
Well, but again, just like the Democrats did with the last ad, with this ad, now the Trump campaign is trying to entice those Reagan and McCain Republicans in Arizona that are so important.
Can they get them back, the McCain Republicans?
But that's the kinds of messages that they want to really hammer home. That they want people to remember the nostalgia of Ronald Reagan. They want to remember all of those things that made them, why a lot of Republicans became Republican.
Yeah.
And so those kinds of ads harken back to a time when they felt good about the Republican Party. So trying to bring that base back together is going to be an important part of their campaign strategy.
Final thing, we've heard that, and we know a lot of the Obama folks who ran that campaign are working her campaign.
Correct.
That's a sharp bunch.
Sure.
Do you see those fingerprints on the campaign? Do you feel a kind of hope and change?
Absolutely. And again, they're trying to turn around the narrative. Again, it was an older president kind of losing a step or two steps to now a younger, energetic, younger politician that can bring them a sense of, oh, well, we got somebody that's energetic and that's going to get us motivated to come out.
Good feelings.
Exactly.
And that good feelings can trump policy, can it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But again, Republicans, and I believe the Trump campaign, but this goes all the way down the ticket, needs to be very focused on those 2 points I talked about, because the economy is a big issue. But when they go off in tangents about denying the election, when they go off in other types of tangents, to me that does not help them. They just need to be very focused and really hammer home those points. And I think it's going to be an extremely tight presidency again.
Even here in Arizona.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Jaime Molera, great to see you. You're a good man.
As always.
Yeah, great to see you. Jaime Molera. Stick around. Next on Newsmaker, a Gilbert father just released from a Mexican prison. He was arrested 2 years ago when he mistakenly brought a gun across the Mexico border. His harrowing story coming up next on Newsmaker. Welcome back on Newsmaker. 2 years ago, a Gilbert man was thrown into a Mexican prison after he mistakenly brought a gun across the border while heading on vacation to Rocky Point with his family. Andrew Harrison just had his case dismissed in Mexico, and he is tasting freedom for the first time in 2 years. Drew joins me now. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I didn't realize you played football for U of A.
Absolutely.
2 years, 2010 and 2011?
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah, I walked on to U of A.
I'm not going to hold that against you since I went to ASU. We'll forget that. All right, Drew, take me back to May of 2022. You're heading down to Rocky Point with your family. You've got 3 young boys, right?
Absolutely.
And your fiance.
Correct. At the time, my third child was a newborn. He was actually about 6 months at the time.
So in your car, you have a case that contains a gun or guns.
It can hold up to a one rifle and two small pistols. It's a compartment that I have under my seat for when I go either hunting or go to the shooting range to train. I use it for protection, but it's just there to keep out of reach for anyone in the car.
It's under your seat. You're heading to Rocky Point. As I understand it, there's a little bit of commotion that day as you guys are trying to get out of town. So there's a lot of chaos with the kids and everything, and you just didn't think about it. Is that correct?
That's correct. We just started getting everything packed up, getting in the truck, and just ready to get to the beach. And at the time, again, like I said, my wife at the time, she was just had our newborn. He's 6 months, so she's nursing, trying to take care of them, and I'm just trying to get the other two, get everything packed, and your mind's not there.
So as you approach the border, did it dawn on you, oh man, I've got my guns in my case? Did it even cross your mind?
Not even when I crossed the border. The once it dawned on me is when they actually went to go start to check it and they found it. And that's when I was like, it hit me like, oh wait, I do have it there. I never took it out.
Wow. Okay, and people should know that in Mexico, their laws on this are incredibly strict. Bringing guns from the north across the border into Mexico, it's a serious penalty.
That is correct. It's very serious. It's a federal crime over in Mexico. So when, like, if any firearms, even just a bullet, just one bullet can put you in prison.
You're kidding.
Correct. I've met a couple Americans over there that was with me, and one had one bullet, some had 10, some had 200. But yeah, if you have a round in your car, they're going to pull you over and you're going to prison.
When did the moment dawn on you that you were in serious, serious trouble? Had you met with a lawyer yet? Did they have a court-appointed attorney to meet with you?
No, I didn't meet a lawyer until that second night when we were in Hermosillo jail. That's when our in-laws and my family, they had spoken with a lawyer, and he came down to let me know exactly what's going on, what's going to happen, and basically letting me know that he was going to be appointed to me.
This is a lawyer from the States or from Mexico?
From Hermosillo.
Wow. At this point, are you panicking, thinking, I'm in serious trouble here and I might do some time?
Oh, yes. I broke down many times. I've never in my life been in jail. I've never been arrested.
You go through a court proceeding and then they find you guilty initially and you're put into prison, a Mexican prison?
So no, they didn't find me guilty at the first hearing. All they stated to me is that I was being charged with certain charges, and what's going to happen is that they're going to put me on an investigation, and that investigation was from either a 2-month investigation all the way up to 6 months. And when that investigation period is over, when that investigation period is over, I then will go back to another court hearing. And that's when either they decide that I will either take a deal to reduce my sentence or the charges or whatever it is that they do over there.
So Drew, when you end up in prison, where do you end up in prison in Mexico, and what were the conditions like?
I was still in Hermosillo. I was in how they stated over here, it's basically a maximum facility, a maximum prison facility. It was called CPS 11 Sonora. And there you're in the cell for pretty much 24 to 27 hours. You get 4 hours out, and the rest of the time you're in your cell.
You're in your cell. You're in there by yourself?
There is, it's a 2-part cell. Some have 3. At the time, I only had just myself. And then throughout the year, I did have a cellmate who was another American. But yeah, it's not the ideal living situation.
No, I mean, Drew, how did you get through it?
Through the grace of God. That's all I can say. every day was a struggle. Every day was just a learning point. Every day was you have to learn something new. Just I I worked out a lot. I can tell you that. But it's yeah, through the grace of God, just praying and sticking to my word. All the letters, my family, my friends, just people, just keep supporting, letting them know that they're supporting me out there. So just letting myself not give up was like a challenge, and that's what kept me motivated. Was the most thing was my kids.
So you finally have this court appearance and the judge dismisses the case. This happened just a few weeks ago.
Correct. Actually, August, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Correct. So the judge did there was a trial. So throughout the whole process, that 2 years, I was still going to court dates, and it was that my lawyer. He was a really smart lawyer. He was really, really fighting for me. He's like what the prosecutor there was trying to do, was not what he had in mind and what he knew was right. So he told them that we wanted to go to trial because he knew what we could do at a trial. And once we got there, everything the prosecutor tried to submit was false, was inaccurate, and he proved it and got me dismissed.
Tell me how it felt to walk out of there.
It felt like Disneyland, going on the highest roller coaster you could ever go on. it was the happiest, scariest, sad moment of my life. But it was so. Once I don't know a lot of Spanish, but I'm learning it. I've learned it. I'm learning more of it. But I do know when you say free means it's universal.
Free is universal. So you see your three boys for the first time, and the one boy, the youngest, was 6 months old when you left.
Exactly.
He's now 2.5, right?
Correct.
What did that feel like?
Just, man, when I got him in my arms, I didn't want to let it go. I know they wanted me to let him go, but I didn't want to let go.
Drew, you're in the financial world, right? You were financial help with financial planning, that kind of thing?
Correct. I'm a financial advisor. I worked for Vanguard and Voya Financial, and still now just trying to get back in the fold of the work environment. Okay, so
do you want to put an email out there if somebody wants to hire you?
Hey, absolutely. If it's drew0421@gmail.com. I'm available. Give me a call or give me an email. I will definitely take any interviews right now. So
well, I wish you the best. I wish you the best. Final thing, Drew. What did you learn?
What I learned, honestly, it wasn't the ideal place to really learn things, but you do learn out of there. This is something that I don't wish on anyone, but it is an experience that will help you as a man, I feel like, grow and to learn more about yourself. What I've learned, though, is that a lot of people make mistakes. Mistakes are made, but as far as the country of Mexico, yes, they have strict rules, strict laws, but it's not for the bad. It's just we need to be more, as Americans, just to be more knowledgeable on when we're going to another country, what their laws are.
I really appreciate it. And you don't sound bitter, Drew. You really don't.
No, I've went through those processes in there, and you know what? I'm a man of faith, a man of God here, and He does everything for a reason, and I know that He did it for a reason to make me a stronger person, make me a better man coming out. So I feel going forth here, anyone who sees me out there, you're gonna see an improved Andrew.
Andrew Harrison, freedom after 2 years and 2 months.
Correct.
It's good to see you back.
Hey, it's great.
Even though you're a wildcat, I will.
It's great to be back.
It's good to see you, man. Welcome home.
Thank you, guys. You guys are great, and if you see me out there, I'll definitely give you a hug or handshake, everything out there.
Okay.
Glad to be back.
Andrew Harrison. Thank you, Drew. Appreciate it. We're back in a second on Newsmaker. Thanks as always for joining us on Newsmaker. We will see you next weekend.